Haven't met you yet. My name is Christine Hunter, and I am one of the co-founders of Women in Process Mining, and really glad to have you all here with us today. This is part of our online event series that we have that we kicked off this year, and we have three different online series. So one is around research and market trends, so research and process mining in action, and then the series that we have today, which is our Voices of the Community series, where we get to hear from members of the community in more of a fireside chat format. So Leslie Goldstone is joining us today. I first met Leslie at a Chicago event a couple years ago, and she was there sharing her experiences and best practices in adopting process mining, and how she was using it to drive transformation within her business. And she's always been someone that's been on my mind that I would love to have the women in process mining community hear from. So I'm really glad that she is with us today. I'll tell you a little bit about her, and then we will get into the fireside chat. So for those that have not met Leslie yet, she is an IT professional, and she has been working in this field for over 25 years in IT. And she really is specialized in building relationships, understanding processes, and using technology to help teams meet their strategic goals. Leslie joined Harman in February of this year as the director of process mining, and she's leading a new team within Harman's AI, data, and analytics group. And her role focuses on driving process efficiencies to support the Global Process Governance Office and Harman's digital transformation from SAP ECC to S4 HANA. Prior to Harman, she was at Baxter, and there she established the Process Mining Center of Excellence. And by simplifying and standardizing processes there using process mining, she was able to drive millions of dollars in improvements across order to cash, procure to pay, and incident management processes. Both of those things have kept her very busy, but on top of that, her day-to-day work, she is a mentor and coach and works with the Mentor Her initiative of the Thousand Dream Funds and the Chicagoland Project Management Institute. While she was at Baxter, she launched the company's first cross-company mentoring program and the Women in Technology community there, and she holds PMP and PGMP certifications. What a great way to be giving back to the community at large. And outside of work, she stays busy too with pickleball, paddleboarding, skiing, reading, and traveling. She has two children that are in university, and she lives in the Chicagoland area in the US with her husband and dog. So, Leslie, thank you so much for being with our community today and sharing a little bit about your story.
Hi, Christine. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
All right, well, why don't we dive in and we'll start at the beginning. How did you first get introduced to process mining?
Yeah, it was about 2020, and I was at Baxter, and really they were having a large ERP initiative, migration initiative, and really didn't want to just do a lift and shift. So they had their consulting firm had used process mining, specifically Salonis, to do some evaluations up front. And so they saw the tool and they were like, we'd really like to see where we can also do process improvements at the same time. And so I was always one of those people that got tapped on the shoulder from time to time to run a program. And so they asked me, and they said, would you be interested in doing this? And I was like, yeah, it sounds great. I have kind of a Six Sigma, my green belt. So process has always been important to me. And so I first said, what is process mining? And quickly learned what it was, and started evaluating the vendors. And we wound up going with a proof of value with Salonis, and then had decided to go with Salonis. So from there, built the team, built up a center of excellence. And, just really kind of expanded it from the initial ERP um, process for a variety of reasons, but really found that there was other value to it with additional transformation efforts within the company, because those transformation efforts were really about standardizing, simplifying, and saving money. And I said, oh, I have a tool for that, and that's process mining.
That's great. And how was that received, like within the organization as you raised your hand and said, "Hey, I have a tool that can help you." Was it met with openness? Sometimes new technology isn't received well. So how did that kind of go over when you first started?
Yeah, I would say in the most part, the people I talked to the people that
Mhm.
were most excited, right? So
Yes.
when there was interest, those are the conversations I dug into. If there
Yeah.
wasn't as much interest, I didn't really focus on that right
Yeah.
away. Um, because you really do need to get started with some advocates, people that
Hmm.
get it. And sometimes it really is hard to understand.
Yeah.
So, I found some of the groups, and it was really in both the procurement space and order to cash space,
Hmm.
where they were like, yes, we have the people, we have the savviness of
Hmm.
technology, and we have these goals that are really hard to meet, and we need a tool that's going to help us speed that up. So
Yes.
it's finding the right people to start off. Now, once you start getting value and you start, communicating that out in the organization, then leaders are like, oh, did you know so and so is doing this? Why are
Hmm.
you doing this? And then it gets a
Yes.
little bit easier to get people to be more excited and more, want to learn more about it.
Yeah, that's when the domino effect really starts, and the word of mouth can be a really play an important role in getting it kind of growing like a little bit more like wildfire in that case. Well, I know where where you started, and then as I mentioned in your intro, you started with Harmon earlier this year. So tell us a little bit about Harmon as a company. For those that may not know, they probably do know the brands that sit under Harmon that you'll share with us, and then some of the initiatives that are being driven forward with process mining.
Yeah. So Harman is actually an independent subsidiary of Samsung. So we're
Mm.
owned by Samsung. We're an $11 billion tech company. And really, our purpose is to amplify life experiences. As a technology leader, we want to give the most compelling consumer experiences everywhere. And so you have probably heard of several of our brands, or you don't realize that you are using our brands. So we have our lifestyle division, and that's really kind of brands like Harman Kardon, you might have heard of the from an audio perspective. JBL is one of our brands. So AKG. So amazing audio equipment that really is to amplify people's lives. In our automotive division, we're actually putting our tech into automotive. So you may not know, and it might not say Harman in your speakers in your cars or some of the technology that's used in your cars, but it most likely could be Harman. So it's we're really everywhere. And we also have a strategic business unit called DTS, which is Digital Transformation Solutions. And that really provides some of our technology to our customers. We're actually excited because we just became a partner with Celonis. And so we can offer now Celonis-based solutions to our customers. So that's exciting.
It
Um,
is.
so that's a little bit about Harman, but specifically what I'm doing with since I've come in February is really figure out where is the best usage of using Celonis. And we have really lofty goals that actually take us to 2030. And it's really about growth and revenue management. And so I wanted to align process mining to those strategic initiatives. Again, finding people that have these goals that are going to be tough to do, and where can you help them quickly find areas to improve and use data to get those analyses. So really two different areas. One is, as you mentioned, Christine, is we are moving from SAP ECC to S/4HANA. And so where can we use Celonis to help us with that transformation effort? And we've applied Celonis's new system transformation readiness app, which really kind of ties some of the SAP like transaction codes and programs along with the business process, and really just helps people understand where are things happening so we can help make decisions of what we want to move over to S/4HANA or what maybe we don't want to do, especially around the customizations we've done over the last 20, 30 years. We're trying not to get away from customizations. So if we need to understand more, that's really where we're using it. Also, like low usage fields, like different order types and doc types and that kind of thing. Again, we've had this tool for a long time. Where is it with process mining? We can really see where these codes are being used, how frequently, and some of those ones that just have not been used. Do we need to migrate them over? So that's kind of where we're using it. We're also going to be using it, helping with testing and a change management, because we can see what the to-be process is using conformance to compare what our to-be is with our as is now, and that will help with change management. When we are doing the training, this is what you're doing today, this is how you're going to do it tomorrow. So it's really can be used for a lot of things, but this is exactly how we're using process mining for transformation of an ERP. We're also using it for traditional process mining value activities. And since I've been only there for, about 8 months, we haven't done a lot in this space, but we do have 2 pilots going with a lot more ideas happening. So again, it really starts with the right people
Yes.
and getting that use case and getting value and learning the new mindset of actually not just using the analyses for analytics, but to take an action, to do something. That's how you get the value. And so one is within our order to cash space, one is in our procure to pay space. And yeah, so those are coming. So we're really looking to continue to use it at Harman, really to support those strategic initiatives.
I think those are 3 big ones that probably most can relate to. Certainly the transformation piece within SAP. I know so many, clients that we engage with or people in this community are talking about the transformation that they're undergoing, within their organization, and maybe don't have the visibility that what you described, which is, hey, what are the things that I actually need to move? We had Carrie Brown speak with us earlier this year in the community, and she uses a really simple and I think thoughtful analogy around it's when you move house, and we all have boxes that we just have moved from house to house and we don't know what's in there. But this really kind of shines a light and said, do we need these things? Do we need these customizations? And give you some data set to kind of lower the emotional part of the move, because we know that happens just naturally. That's part of human nature. But it gives you some data to anchor on and maybe let go of some things that are not needed and pick the right and say yes to the right things that need to progress forward as well. Had that transformation already started before your time when you got there, and was process mining a factor before, or was that something that got introduced as you came into the organization?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because the program, it's a many
Hmm.
year-long program, was
Yes.
definitely started before I started. And the team had seen some aspects of Celonis. So Harman had Celonis,
Hmm.
but from a migration project perspective, they'd seen some things but weren't sure. Like it didn't convince them to use it. And so after actually working with Carrie and
Mhm.
really talking about this new app that they had kind of put together, and saw what it could do, I convinced the leadership to let's give process mining a shot here. I do think in many ways, especially just with testing or change management, it can work. You don't even need anything extra really besides the conformance that you already have. So I said, let's do a quick pilot. So we did a 3-week pilot. One
Mhm.
division didn't really connect everything up, but we already had order to cash established for this division. So we used the back end process for it and kind of and configured what we could to showcase and started with really the global process owner and said, okay, you're going to be responsible for this part of the migration as well. What do you think? And had many conversations with her. And, she, being that she was sold and thought, yes, this is useful. And I think that this could be helpful, that helped. And so that's really when then we showcased it to leadership and said, I really think that's process mining could help. Now, it did help also. We already had Salona. So we weren't choosing to do process mining for the first time
Yeah.
without, without having to buy it, the tool. Because there's
Mhm.
other tools in the marketplace that help with transformation. And
Yes.
honestly, we did evaluations on
Mhm.
many of them. And they all are used for a little bit different. So if you had all the money and time in the world, you should use all of them because they would work
Yes.
great together. But that's not reality, right? So we had already had this, so, and now that I was in the position that could help drive and lead, I think that really kind of set the stage to say, yes, this is a tool. And then as I kind of expanded it. We expanded the processes. We really built it out. It something with process mining it's very important to do is very iterative analysis. Don't go get your requirements from an IT perspective and throw it over the fence. It doesn't work that way. It's a very agile iterative. So you kind of start with that minimum viable product and then
Mhm.
you get your feedback and people start using it and ask questions and you're like, oh, I didn't think about that. Let's add that. And so that's kind of what we did again, even with the transformation side is let's get your feedback. Let's see, let's listen to where do you need help and where can process mining help? And then try to connect those dots to
Yeah.
get them to where they need to be. So that's really how we got started. I think a lot of it had to do is we didn't have to pay for an extra tool, but
Yes.
also we could configure it to help where there wasn't much information. So that's
Yeah.
kind of where we're using it.
Okay, that's great. I think it really good, kind of takeaway in that like many, as you said, many of these transformation are multi-year endeavors and programs and projects that start. So if process mining isn't embedded at the beginning, there's still an opportunity while it's underway to introduce process mining. Obviously, if you have it and you're using it in a different part of the business, and you're just able to extend into what you're doing, all the better. But if you do have to go out to market, there's at least, a variety of vendors that can really help to meet this specific type of need because I think so many companies are going through this type of transformation. So I think there's a lot of open doors there as well. Well, you came in, you established the Center of Excellence, at your previous company, and obviously looking to, kind of build out your team where you're at Harmon now. How do you think about, when you get started, what roles do you need to get started with process mining? What are some of the must-haves? I know sometimes people can think, "Ugh, maybe this is going to be too big." But I know everyone says you can get started small and kind of grow from there. So what's been your journey of growth as you've built these different centers of excellence?
Yeah, great question. Really kind of a quick lessons learned that I've had initially when we started with process mining was governance, or
Mm.
not having enough governance was my lesson learned. So,
Yes.
so coming into Harmon, I kind of knew some gotchas. Of course, we always continuously improve, but I definitely wanted to put in governance right away. That's really how you get the value, is really honing on that. And part of governance is roles and responsibilities.
Mhm.
So clearly defined roles with the responsibilities, with the expectations, and with
Mhm.
their goal. This is what you're supposed to do, but this is your end goal in mind.
Mm.
And so, starting out with with an executive sponsor,
Mhm.
that person is making sure that what we're doing is aligned with the strategic initiatives of the company.
Mm.
So at Harmon, that was not hard because the person that put Salonis basically into Harmon was our CIO. And so I had his, blessing already. But having that executive sponsorship is key. Um, the other thing is really having some sort of global process owner for the process.
Mm.
You want to bring in the people, this business SMEs, the subject matter experts that are part of that end-to-end process. So from an order to cash perspective, for example, you have customer service team for the order management. Then you might have some of the different teams that kind of make up the fulfillment process. And then you have perhaps, accounts receivable for your invoicing, and then finance that, where you're getting the payments and it's hitting the books. And then, what other teams that you have in there. But these teams generally could work in a very siloed fashion. They're doing their job on a day-to-day
Yeah.
basis, not really thinking about the other team as much.
Mm.
And so it's really important to have people representatives, but then who is the decision maker
Mm.
of the overall? Now, sometimes, and at Harmon, we are starting to build out the global process owners throughout all processes, which is amazing. But it doesn't always have to be that. And if you
Mhm.
don't have a global process owner, what I have found is you find someone where kind of they roll up to, and then you
Mhm.
say, congratulations, you need to be the process owner.
You're voluntold that you are
Yes,
the global
yes.
process
And
owner.
I did have to do that in my past. So just because you do need a decision owner, because as
Yeah.
you're looking at the opportunities, you do need someone that can say, okay, we're going to do this. I mean, we're going to prioritize things. So we're going to do this, and I give you the permission to take the action to get the value, because again,
Yes.
without action, you don't get value. So that's really why having those roles of responsibilities and people knowing who is the decision maker, who gets the
Yeah.
D. And obviously, we use the team for influence and suggestions and findings, but that's really it. So that would be one thing, is really the governance on the roles and responsibilities.
Mhm.
And another role would be that I have found to be a very difficult role to find, but very important role, is a value lead. Someone
Mhm.
that's sitting kind of within the process. It doesn't really matter where, but knows their role is responsible to find value. And the
Mhm.
reason why this is important too is people do get very excited with, the analysis of process mining. And you really do have to hone in and say, okay, we're working on this. Let's
Mhm.
focus. Let's figure out what the value is, and then decide, is it worth it to take action? And then let's track that value. And without someone really having the responsibility of that, it could be the global process owner, it could be, whoever, but it's got to be someone that knows this is our role, to kind of help also push the team to know that we're really doing this to get value. There's
Yeah.
so many analytics tools out there. You don't need process mining for analytics. You need it
Mm.
for action.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. But governance is key to a successful program.
Yeah, I could see that. And I think what you said at the end is there are a lot of analytics tools out there, but many you got to dive like 10 layers deep to get to where you can actually take action. And so I think the beauty of kind of process mining and as it's evolving process intelligence is the surfacing up of those actions. And it sounds like the team, having that clarity and roles and responsibilities in knowing who needs to take the action and who's accountable for the follow through is really key as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, before we close out and go to our speed networking round, you shared a little bit around some lessons learned, which is the governance piece. A lot of our learning comes from things that we didn't do, and we take those forward. But any other, lessons learned or things that you would want to share with this group around how to kind of get started or scale?
Yeah, again, I would say if you're getting started, try to find strategic priorities in the company where process mining can help. And
Mhm.
again, things like, simplifying, standardizing, and saving money are like the three things that
Mhm.
a lot of transformation efforts are really ultimately about.
Yeah.
And so if you can tie that and say this is how we can get to it faster, that helps. The other thing really is about root cause. So that is what I think. So analytics can tell you, oh, I have a problem. I'm seeing a number I do not like.
Mhm.
That is not the metric I want to keep. I'm very far from target. They might be able to use it for a little bit more of, why is this happening, but not necessarily where it's happening. So
Mhm.
that's where sometimes process mining comes into play, is it allows you to get into the where, which then really helps you get to the root cause.
Mhm.
We sometimes people jump to the conclusion, right? They jump to how they want to fix it. It's really important to be diligent about really following the process, right?
Mhm.
Making sure you're doing the look for the opportunities, then dig in. What is the value? What is the cost of this problem? I mean, it
Mhm.
may look bad on paper, but the cost may not be that significant. And you really want to try to get the bigger hitters if you can,
Yeah.
especially if you're growing. So look for those bigger hitters and try to and then use it to really dig into the root cause. And that's where things that are happening in one part of the process flow may at the impact could be somewhere else, or
Mhm.
you don't know. So and that's where getting all the teams together is also very important. So just be careful about root cause and not going too fast to fix a problem, because that's how that it's not sustained. You really want to sustain it and just fix it from the beginning. And people still want to jump and maybe use the process mining tool to fix it. And it's like, no, let's fix the data that's in the tool, because that's really what it is. So it is continuing kind of pushing to make
Yeah.
sure that people understand, let's not do band-aids. Let's really get to the reason why this is happening.
Yeah, the Band-Aid solutions is just, I don't know, it makes us feel good. We found a solution, but I think as you're trying to scale and kind of build for longer term, getting to that root cause is really important. We'll close out this segment with one last question that came in from the audience, which is what were the biggest challenges that you faced? And it could be, over any of your experience with process mining.
Yeah, I think that it's really, and I'm still, we're still seeing it, is taking the action. So you can
Hmm.
see the analytics right away.
Yeah.
You can even get to maybe root cause. And that takes a little bit of digging and maybe even in old-fashioned interviews, because you're seeing data, but you have to understand it. So that's okay. But then, okay, you know the issue, you kind of know why it's happening, or at least you have a couple reasons why it's happening. What are the potential actions that I can take? And trying to figure out, can I even take those actions? So
Mhm.
we have a big migration effort. Do we really want to make a big changes to our old ECC? Maybe, maybe not. So then what can we do in between? So it is a challenge of not only convincing people we have to take action and getting those decision makers to say, yes, go ahead and do it, but it's also the boundaries that you're living in. Can you
Mhm.
take the actions that you want? Because again, we want to get value. Process mining should really pay for itself and then some. And
Yeah.
so if it's not, then people are going to say, why are we using it?
Yeah.
So it's really about the challenges is taking action. And the only thing that I've learned so far, and again, continuously learning depending on who you're working with, it can change, is just driving that home as much as possible over and over again at the beginning to make
Yes.
sure people know this is what we're doing.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And again, some natural human instincts is we always get a little bit, off center. And so it's bringing back and reminding people that this is the purpose of why we're using, this tool, trying to get to this outcome, and the actions that we're taking are really the key to getting us there, and not just, getting the visibility and insight. So